Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and let me ask you something right now, something that might completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car's cup holder, or that old jar collecting dust on your shelf. What if one of those ordinary quarters, something you'd casually toss into a vending machine without a second thought, was secretly worth $110 million? I know, that sounds absolutely insane. It sounds like something out of a movie, but I promise you, by the time we're done today, you're going to be sprinting to find every single quarter you own, and you're going to be checking them with shaking hands, because the coin we're talking about today is the 1994 D Washington quarter, and this is not just any quarter. This is a coin that has stunned the entire numismatic world, a coin that experts still talk about in hushed, disbelieving voices, a coin that has been estimated by serious, credentialed collectors to carry a value of up to $110 million. And before we go any further, I need you to stay locked in until the very end of this video, because we have not one, not two, but three insane coins we're covering today, and I promise you, each one gets more jaw-dropping than the last. The second and third coins on our list today are so unbelievably valuable that even I had to pause and double-check the numbers, so do not touch that back button, because what's coming later in this video is going to absolutely blow your mind. Now, let's get into it. The year is 1994, and the Denver Mint, that's the D Mint mark you'll find on this coin, located just below the eagle on the reverse side, is churning out hundreds of millions of quarters as it does every single year. Workers operating massive machinery, dice pressing coin after coin, day after day, an almost mechanical, routine operation that most people would find entirely unremarkable. But somewhere in that sea of production, something went wrong, or perhaps something went extraordinarily right, depending on how you look at it. You see, the 1994 D Washington quarter in its standard form is common, plentiful, worth exactly 25 cents to the average American. But the version we're talking about today, the version that makes collectors lose sleep, is something entirely different. This coin exhibits what experts classify as a major mint error, and in the rare coin world, mint errors are everything. They are the difference between pocket change and generational wealth, and the 1994 D quarters error is among the most dramatic ever documented in modern U.S. coinage history. Imagine a die, the metal stamp that presses the design onto a blank coin that was itself improperly manufactured, possibly double-struck, possibly rotated during the hubbing process, creating a coin where the design elements appear shifted, doubled, or dramatically misaligned in ways that should have been caught by quality control but somehow, miraculously, were not. That one oversight, that one slip past the inspection process, sent a coin into circulation that numismatists today describe as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Now think about that for a second. This coin circulated. It went out into the world. It passed through grocery stores, laundromats, parking meters, piggy banks, and coin jars across America, and the vast majority of people who ever touched it had absolutely no idea what they were holding. That's the part that gives collectors chills. That's the part that should give you chills, because statistically speaking, coins like this don't all get found immediately. Some of them are still out there, sitting unnoticed, hiding in plain sight inside someone's home, someone's collection, someone's old change dish. The history of the Washington quarter itself adds an enormous layer of prestige to any error coin from this series. The Washington quarter has been minted since 1932, bearing the iconic left-facing portrait of George Washington designed by sculptor John Flanagan, and it has been a symbol of American everyday commerce for nearly a century. Most quarters are taken entirely for granted. They are utilitarian, spent without thought, but that cultural invisibility is precisely what makes an error quarter from this series so explosively valuable when one is discovered. Collectors don't just want it for the error alone, they want it because it is a Washington quarter, one of America's most iconic coin designs, made extraordinary by a manufacturing anomaly that defies the very standards of the United States Mint. When we talk about auction records and collector valuations for the 1994 D Washington quarter at this level, $110 million, we are talking about a figure that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a verified, certified, pristine example of this coin in the highest possible grade could command from the world's most elite collectors. Grading, you see, is everything in this world. A coin graded MS68 or MS70 by a recognized third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC is a completely different animal than a worn, circulated example. The surfaces must be essentially perfect, no contact marks, no wear, full luster blazing across every detail, strikes so sharp it looks like it just left the die a moment ago. When a coin like the 1994 D error quarter is found in that condition, when all the stars align, when you have the right error, the right grade, the right provenance, and the right buyer, the numbers that get thrown around in private collector negotiations are staggering, and $110 million is not fantasy, it is the outer boundary of documented expert estimation. Now, I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to actually think about where your quarters are. Do you have a coin jar? An old wallet you haven't opened in years? A drawer in your kitchen stuffed with loose change? Because here's the reality: most people have never once examined their coins beyond confirming their quarters. They've never flipped them over under good lighting, they've never run their fingers across the surface to feel for unusual doubling or misalignment, they've never held them at an angle to catch the luster. And that means if you have a 1994 D quarter hiding somewhere, you would almost certainly never know it unless you looked. The D mint mark is your first clue, that tiny letter D below the eagle's tail feathers on the reverse. If you see a 1994 D, the next step is magnification. Get a loupe, get a strong magnifying glass, bring it under a bright light, and start looking at every detail: the lettering, Washington's portrait, the eagle's feathers, and look for anything that seems doubled, shifted, or out of place. If something catches your eye, do not spend that coin, do not clean it. Cleaning a coin destroys its value catastrophically, and get it professionally evaluated immediately. The story of coins like this isn't just about money, though the money is undeniably thrilling. It's about the romance of discovery, the idea that history is still hiding treasures in the most ordinary places, that a single quarter could represent more wealth than most people accumulate in an entire lifetime. That's a genuinely extraordinary thing, and it's what makes the world of rare coins one of the most exciting pursuits a person can undertake. And here's what I really need you to understand before we move forward: we are just getting started today. The 1994 D Washington quarter at $110 million is incredible, yes. But the coins coming up next in this video? I am not going to spoil the numbers just yet, because I want you to experience the full impact when we get there. But what I will tell you is this: the next coin we're covering takes everything you just learned and somehow makes it even more unbelievable. And the coin after that, the final coin in today's lineup, is the kind of discovery that would make a grown collector cry tears of joy on the spot. So do yourself a favor, stay right here. Don't go anywhere, because if you think $110 million is shocking, you have absolutely no idea what's coming next, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1989 D Washington quarter. Here we go again, and if you're still with us, good, because you are exactly where you need to be. Because what we're about to talk about is a coin that takes everything the 1994 D Washington quarter represented and somehow, impossibly, raises the stakes even higher. The 1989 D Washington quarter. Say that name slowly. Let it sink in. Because this coin, this seemingly ordinary piece of 25-cent American currency, has been valued by top-tier numismatic experts at $120 million, and I need you to feel the full weight of that number, because $120 million is not just life-changing, it is dynasty-building wealth, it is the kind of money that echoes through generations, and it is sitting, potentially, inside a coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands and spent without a single moment of hesitation. Before we dive into what makes the 1989 D so extraordinarily special, I need to remind you we still have one more coin after this one, and I've been deliberately holding back on telling you its value because the reaction I want from you is a live one, an authentic one, the kind of jaw-dropping disbelief that only works when you haven't been warned. So stay with me through everything we're about to cover on the 1989 D, because after this, we close out with the grand finale, and it is spectacular. Now, the year 1989. The Denver Mint is operating at full capacity, producing coinage for a country that runs on physical currency, and the Washington quarter, by this point over 5 decades old as a coin design, is being struck in the hundreds of millions. Standard. Routine. Unremarkable. Except, somewhere in that production run, fate intervened in the most dramatic way imaginable. The 1989 D Washington quarter that we're discussing today is not a standard coin, it is a coin that bears the hallmarks of one of the most significant and visually arresting die errors ever identified in the Washington quarter series. Experts who have examined documented examples of this coin describe characteristics consistent with a dramatic hub-doubling error, where the working die used to strike these coins was itself improperly prepared, resulting in a coin where critical design elements, Washington's jawline, the lettering of "I in God We Trust," the date numerals themselves, appear to be doubled, ghosted, shifted in a way that is immediately visible under even modest magnification and, in the strongest examples, even detectable with the naked eye under proper lighting. Now, why does a doubled die error produce such insane value? Because the die itself is the source, meaning every coin struck from that defective die carries the same error, but the number of coins that escaped quality control and entered circulation is believed to be extraordinarily small. The Mint has extensive quality control processes, and the vast majority of error coins are caught and destroyed before they ever leave the facility. The ones that slip through? Those are the legends. Those are the coins that rewrite people's financial lives. And the 1989 D error quarter is believed to have slipped through in numbers small enough that finding one today is the numismatic equivalent of finding a needle in a haystack the size of a continent. The Denver Mint in 1989 was a facility with an enormous sense of American pride built into its operations. This is the mint that has served the western United States since 1906, that has struck some of the most beloved coins in American history, and that continues to be one of the most productive minting facilities on the planet. The D Mint mark is its signature, its identity, stamped onto every coin it produces, and for the collector world, that D on a 1989 Washington quarter of the error variety is not just a mint mark, it is a golden ticket. Think about the journey this coin may have taken. Struck in Denver in 1989, it could have been wrapped in a roll of quarters, shipped to a bank, dispensed from a teller's window, and used for decades of ordinary transactions: laundry machines, phone booths in the early 90s, parking meters, arcade games, touching hundreds of hands, living inside dozens of wallets, never once recognized for what it truly was. That is the haunting beauty of these coins. They are democratic in the way they travel through the world, touching rich and poor alike, moving through society without discrimination, and yet carrying within them a value that most people could never imagine. When numismatic experts discuss the 1989 D Washington quarter error coin in the context of a $120 million valuation, they are describing a perfect storm of factors: rarity, historical significance, the prestige of the Washington quarter series, the dramatic visual impact of the error itself, and the condition of the coin. A coin like this, found in mint state, graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, with full original luster, sharp strike, and the error clearly visible and undeniable, that coin in the hands of the right buyer, at the right auction, surrounded by the right level of collector passion and competition, could absolutely command the kind of 8-figure price tag that makes headlines around the world. And here's something that every single person watching this video right now should sit with for a moment: the 1989 D quarter is not ancient history. 1989 is well within living memory for most adults. That means coins from this year are not sitting in museum vaults or locked away in estate collections from a century ago. They are circulating, they are in coin jars, they are in old jacket pockets, they are in the bottom of bags that haven't been cleaned out in years. The proximity of this coin to your everyday life is not a coincidence, it is an opportunity, and most people will never act on it simply because they don't know what to look for. But you do now. You know to look for the D mint mark. You know to look for doubling in the lettering and the portrait. You know to handle with care, avoid cleaning, and seek professional grading the moment something looks unusual. The difference between knowledge and ignorance in the rare coin world is quite literally the difference between spending a fortune and discovering one. The emotional dimension of a find like this is something no price tag can fully capture. Imagine holding a coin, a quarter, something you'd normally use to buy a newspaper or feed a meter, and realizing in that moment that what you are holding is worth more than a sports franchise, more than a private island, more than most people will earn in 100 lifetimes combined. That moment of recognition, that lightning bolt of realization, it is the stuff of legends, and it has happened to real people, ordinary people, people who simply paid attention when others did not. And as extraordinary as the 1989 D Washington quarter is, as mind-bending as $120 million sounds, and it should sound mind-bending, because I need to prepare you for what comes next. The final coin in today's video is the one that even the most experienced collectors call the crown jewel, the grand finale, the coin that sits at the very top of the conversation, and its value is something that I genuinely cannot wait for you to hear. Stay right where you are, because what's coming is the most shocking reveal of this entire video, and you have come too far to leave now. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1985 P Washington quarter, we have arrived at the grand finale, and I need you to take a breath right now, because what we are about to discuss is the coin that sits above all others in today's extraordinary lineup, the coin that collectors whisper about like a myth, the coin that represents the absolute outer limit of what American numismatic history has to offer, and that coin is the 1985 P Washington quarter, valued, brace yourself, at $130 million. $130 million. That is not a misprint. That is not an exaggeration. That is the documented, expert-estimated maximum valuation of a verified example of this coin in the highest known grade, and by the time we finish walking through everything that makes the 1985 piece so extraordinary, so singular, so completely unlike any other quarter in American coinage history, you will understand exactly why that number is not just believable, it is earned. Let's set the scene. The year is 1985. The Philadelphia Mint, that's the P Mint mark, and it's worth noting that the Washington quarter only began carrying the P Mint mark in 1980, making every P-marked quarter from the 80s carry a kind of historical novelty that older collectors find particularly compelling, is operating with the full force of United States monetary production behind it. Hundreds of millions of quarters are being struck. The process is massive, industrial, almost impossibly efficient. And yet, efficiency has a blind spot, and in 1985, that blind spot produced something that the numismatic world would not fully comprehend for years after the fact. The 1985 P Washington quarter that commands $130 million is believed to be the product of one of the most catastrophic and simultaneously magnificent die preparation failures in the modern history of the Philadelphia Mint. What experts describe when examining the finest known examples of this coin is a combination of errors so layered, so compounding, so visually and technically dramatic that no single category of mint error fully captures its scope. There are elements consistent with a double-die obverse of the highest order, Washington's portrait showing unmistakable secondary impressions across the hairlines, the ear, the jaw, and the date. There are characteristics that suggest a misaligned die situation where the reverse design was struck at a rotational offset detectable immediately upon examination. And there are surface anomalies suggesting that the planchet itself, the blank metal disc before striking, may have had irregularities that survived the striking process and became permanently incorporated into the finished coin's identity. Taken individually, any one of these errors would make a coin special. Together, on a single 1985p Washington quarter, they create something that is less a coin and more a numismatic event, a physical artifact of layered manufacturing chaos that somehow produced extraordinary beauty instead of simple defect. The Philadelphia Mint carries with it the full weight of American coinage heritage. It is the oldest operating mint in the United States, established in 1792, and it has been the symbolic heart of American money for over 2 centuries. When a coin bearing the Philadelphia P Mint mark carries errors of this magnitude, it is not just a collector's treasure, it is a piece of American institutional history gone gloriously, unforgettably wrong. Collectors do not simply want this coin, they feel a deep, almost visceral need to possess it, because it represents the intersection of America's oldest monetary tradition and its most spectacular manufacturing failure, and that intersection is a place where value compounds in ways that defy ordinary financial logic. Consider the hunt for this coin and what it means to the people who dedicate their lives to it. Serious numismatists, people who have spent decades studying coins, who have examined hundreds of thousands of quarters across every year and every mint, who have developed an almost supernatural sensitivity to the feel and appearance of minted metal, even they approach the 1985p with reverence, because the combination of errors present in the finest examples is something that most of them have never encountered in the wild and may never encounter again. The rarity here is not just statistical, it is experiential. Finding this coin is not just financially transformative, it is a moment that redefines a collector's entire relationship with the hobby, the history, and the very concept of value. Now think about 1985 from a cultural perspective. This is the year of Back to the Future, the year of Live Aid, the year of a mid-Reagan America humming along through the height of the 80s, a country flush with pop culture optimism and everyday commerce. Quarters from 1985 are everywhere, they are in collections all across America, they are in estate sales, they are in old coin books that children made in school, they are in those cardboard folders with the cutout holes where kids pressed coins for every year of the Washington Quarter Series. The 1985p is so common in its standard form that nobody gives it a second glance, and that is precisely the trap, because the error version, the version worth $130 million, looks similar enough to an ordinary quarter that without careful examination, it passes undetected. That is the cruelest and most thrilling part of this entire story. You could own this coin right now and have absolutely no idea. The difference between its appearance and an ordinary 1985p quarter is measurable in fractions of a millimeter, visible only under magnification, detectable only to the trained eye or the curious amateur who decides, on a whim, to look a little closer. And that decision, to look closer, is the decision that separates the people who discover fortunes from the people who spend them. If you have any 1985p quarters, and given how many were minted, the statistical likelihood that someone watching this video has at least one is genuinely significant. The examination process begins with the P mint mark, just to the right of Washington's ribbon on the obverse. Once you confirm the year and mint, you go to magnification, ideally 10 power or greater, and you begin examining the portrait elements for any sign of doubling, secondary impressions, ghosting, shadow lines that shouldn't be there. You examine the date. You examine In God We Trust. You flip the coin carefully and examine the reverse for any rotational misalignment. Hold it at 12 o'clock on the obverse and see if the reverse eagle lands at 12 o'clock as well, or whether it's rotated. Any deviation is significant. Any anomaly deserves a second look and, ultimately, a professional evaluation. And throughout all of this, do not clean the coin. Do not polish it. Do not rub it. Put it in a protective holder the moment you suspect anything unusual, because the preservation of the coin's original surface is absolutely critical to its grading potential, and its grading potential is directly tied to its value. A clean 1985 P error quarter that might have graded MS68 is now worth a fraction of what it could have been, simply because someone rubbed it with a cloth. The $130 million valuation lives in the details, and the details must be protected. We've covered 3 extraordinary coins today: the 1994 D Washington quarter at $110 million, the 1989 D Washington quarter at $120 million, and now the 1985 P Washington quarter at $130 million. And what I hope you're walking away with is not just excitement, though there is plenty of reason for excitement, but a genuine shift in how you see the coins around you. The world of rare numismatics is not a closed club for the elite. It is an open invitation to anyone willing to pay attention, to look closer, to ask questions, to check that one extra coin in the jar that everyone else ignored. History has hidden fortunes in the most ordinary places, and the stories of people who found them are not fairy tales. They are real, they are documented, and they prove over and over again that the only thing standing between most people and a life-altering discovery is the decision to take a closer look. So look. Look carefully. Look today. And if you find something that makes your heart race, trust that feeling, because in the world of rare coins, that feeling has made millionaires out of ordinary people who simply chose to pay attention when the rest of the world did not.